Yeah, hi guys, good morning. Okay, so in today's session, we'll continue about Terraform only. Okay, what is state file, what are different variables available in Terraform, okay, and what are the different lifecycle rules of Terraform. So we'll work on that areas. Okay, so in yesterday's session, we have seen what is Terraform. Okay, the difference between CloudFormation and Terraform, and the installation part, as well as how a basic Terraform configuration file looks like. Okay, so in today's session, we'll continue the same topic. So if I'll open my Visual Studio Code, okay.
Am I screen
Yes,
share?
Vamshi.
Sorry. Let me share my screen. Okay, hope you can see my screen.
Yes, bhai.
Let me use the terminal and let me destroy everything. Okay, I want to start from scratch again. Terraform. Say what this will do. This will delete everything, whatever we have created. Okay, spelling mistake. Terraform destroy. Okay, so let me delete this file as well. Okay, so this is our configuration file, and we are using only one provider, that is local. Okay, so in the same use case, if you have multiple providers apart from local, if you want to provision something else, or if you want to use multiple providers, then what we can do, we can either create a new directory and create a new main.tf file, or else we can continue writing in the same configuration file. Okay, so in this case, I will be using one provider called random underscore pet. Okay, this is to generate a random name to our uh, this provider will help us to generate some random names. Okay, so random underscore pet, and then this will be my pet time. Okay, and then here we can use the attributes called prefix, can be for example Mr., and then separator will be dot. Okay, and then what we have, prefix, separator, and length equal to 1. Okay, so now we have two different providers. One is local file provider, and one is random provider. If you want to check more details, then you can visit the registry and we can check. Okay, so now I want to execute this. So whenever we are adding new providers, we need to initialize Terraform so that it will download the dependencies, whatever dependencies are required to execute these set of block. Okay, so let me execute Terraform in it. Already this has been scheduled, I mean this has been initialized. Okay, if you see, so we have two providers, one is random and one is local. The version of random is version 3.4.3, and the version of provider is 2.4.0. Basically, whatever provider we are using, I mean a plugin or provider, so that will also have a specific version. So Terraform will always try to download the latest version. ప్రతిసారి ఏం చేస్తుంది, this will download the latest version. If suppose after 6 months you want to execute this source file with this specific version of provider only, even we can do that. ఏ ప్రొవైడర్ ఏ వర్జన్ యూస్ చేయాలి అనేది కూడా we can configure that. We'll see that part in the later session. Okay, so as of now we'll be using the latest providers provided by the Terraform. Okay, so what is the purpose to use the specific version, ఎందుకు ఒక స్పెసిఫిక్ వర్జనే కావాలనుకుంటున్నాము, because any application, whatever application we have, I mean whatever we are trying to execute, either in programming or in ISC, okay, or in some other tool sets, so we need to always maintain a fixed size of versioning. Because if suppose we have developed one application using Java 1.8 and we are trying to execute that with the help of Java 17 latest version, then there might be a chance that that application will not be compatible and it will not execute or run as per our expectations. The behavior might change or it will not be able to execute. That's the reason we should always need to maintain a specific version of providers or tool sets. ఓకే వర్జన్ స్పెసిఫిక్ అనేది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. మనం ఇష్టం వచ్చినట్టు ఐ విల్ యూజ్ లేటెస్ట్ అంటే ప్రతిసారి వర్క్ అవుతుందని ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్ వీ కాంట్ పుట్. ఓకే వీ కాంట్ కీప్ దట్ సెట్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్స్. ఓకే గైస్ క్లియర్? So the providers whatever I am using, right, local, this is provider. So in providers we have three different type of providers available. Three types of providers are available in Terraform. One is official, provided by Terraform, and one is partner, provided by third-party vendors which are having the tie-up with Terraform. Okay, HashiCorp. Okay, and then one is community. Means any person, individual who can create. Okay, so we have three type of providers available in Terraform. One is official. So whatever, if you'll see this output here, we can see, I mean say whatever we are trying to use. So this is the company name, HashiCorp/Toddler. If suppose we are trying to fetch any provider from third-party vendor which has been provided by third-party vendor, then we might see that name. Okay, and there are some providers which can be created by the individuals. Ante manalanti vallu they can create and they can store in the registry which will be used by different users. Okay, clear? So we have three type of providers available. One is official, which is provided by Terraform. One is partner, which is provided by the third-party vendors who has tie up with the Terraform, and one is by the community, the individual creators. Okay, yes or no?
Okay, bro.
Okay, and then we have the configuration directory. Okay, so whenever we are trying to create Terraform init, okay, whenever we are trying to create Terraform init, guys, this is very important. Okay, let me clear this. Okay, whenever I am trying to execute Terraform init, what it is doing, it is creating a .terraform directory. Here if you see we have two providers. Here also we can see two resource blocks, right? So one is local and one is random. Okay, so the moment we execute Terraform init, it will create a .terraform directory which will consist the dependencies or the providers whatever we have used in our configuration file. Okay, and then we have terraform.log. So basically this will be the backup for our .terraform directory. Okay, and then we have, whenever I execute Terraform apply, okay, let me do one thing. Let me delete all this. Let me delete everything. Move to recycle bin. Okay, so as of now we don't have anything, so it's a kind of empty directory with only main.tf configuration. So let me execute Terraform init first and see. Okay, here it is trying to download our providers and one directory has been created that is called as .terraform, and this is the backup file for this. Okay, clear? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Now, if I'll execute Terraform apply, then we'll see Terraform apply. Okay, what happened? Local mypad word.content. Okay, sorry. Let me remove this. There has been some changes. Okay, hash pets.txt, and then content will be my cat name is cat. Okay, I'll execute Terraform apply. Okay, this will create my file as well as it will create one random id. Okay, and also we can see one file got created, that is terraform.tf state. Okay, this file will only get created if I'll execute Terraform apply at least once. Okay, and this file will consist the complete information of our execution. I mean execution in the sense whatever we are trying to create, right? This file will consist of the complete metadata of our resource file. Okay, which version has been used, and what is the file name, what is the content. Okay, and what is the file permission, directory permissions, file name, what is the id which has been created. Okay, and then random pet name, what is the name we have got. So we have got this name, Mr. Spaniel. We have got the name called Mr. Spaniel. So state file is nothing but a blueprint, okay, of our actual infrastructure which has been created by Terraform. Okay, this file will consist the actual information, or this is the only true source of data. Okay, state file is the only true source of data which will have the complete information of our existing infrastructure. మనం టెరాఫామ్ తీసుకొని ఏం క్రియేట్ చేసినాం ఏందనేది ఈచ్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీ డీటెయిల్డ్ will be configured in the state file. That's how Terraform will understand what has been created, what changes needs to be made. For example, if I'm trying to change the name of my cat, okay, my cat name is, for example, hen. Okay, so if I'm trying to execute Terraform apply, okay, if I'll do yes, or else if I show here, see content, my cat name is cat, and it has been replacing with my cat name is hen. So how Terraform is getting this information? How Terraform is getting all this information? Because of the state file. Because Terraform will check the state file, okay, which is the true source of data, and this file will consist the complete information of our existing infrastructure which has been created by Terraform. It will check that file, and Terraform will understand, okay, I need to make this change. So that's how the Terraform is working in the backend. Okay, if I'll execute yes, what will happen? Terraform, if I'll open Terraform state file now, see, if I'll scroll down, state file is also changed. See, my cat name is hen now. Whenever we are trying to make some changes, state file will get changed. For example, we should always remember that we should not make any kind of changes, manually changes we should not do in the state file. Enduku? Because Terraform will not understand then. If suppose I am trying to make the changes as cat, okay, I'm trying to edit my state file, and let me save this. My cat name is cat now again. Okay, if I'll go to main.tf, okay, if I'll execute Terraform apply, again this will show as one change needs to be made. See, if I scroll, my cat name is cat. This detail from where it is fetching? It is fetching from state file, and again it is trying to make the changes to him. Okay, so never try to manually change state file except practice purpose or testing purpose. Okay, yeah,
అదే ఒకసారి డాట్ టెరాఫామ్ డాట్ లాక్ డాట్ హెచ్ఎల్ ఫైల్ ఒకసారి చెప్పరా.
really?
లాక్ డాట్ హెచ్ఎల్ ఫైల్ ఉంది కదా,
ఫస్ట్ దీనిపైన చేస్తున్నప్పుడు అది ఎందుకు వెళ్తున్నాం? ఫస్ట్ ఇది అయిపోయింది కదా, మళ్ళీ లాస్ట్కి అక్కడే వెళ్తాము. ఓకే, ఫస్ట్ నడుస్తున్న టాపిక్ పైన ఫోకస్ చేయి. దీంట్లో ఏమైనా డౌట్ ఉంటే అడుగు. కవర్ చేయని టాపిక్కి ఇప్పుడే మాట్లాడము. దీంట్లో ఏమైనా డౌట్ ఉందా? ఓకే, సో yeah, so if suppose I have modified it manually, then Terraform is again trying to make these changes, because Terraform will check the state file. Whenever I'll execute Terraform apply, it will check for the state file, it will check for the changes, what changes I am trying to make from my existing infrastructure and the current infrastructure what I want to create, and as per that this will get created. Okay guys, this is clear about state file?
Okay, clear.
Okay, and then this will be our basic Terraform configuration directory what we might see, okay, when we are working on some more use cases. Okay, so we have one file called main.tf. This file will consist of the complete configuration of our resource. Okay, and then we might see a file called variables.tf. This is used to declare our variables. Okay, and then we have one file called output.tf. This is to display the outputs. Okay, and then provider.tf. This will have the complete information of our providers. So this might be the directory structure we might see. Mostly we will be seeing main.tf, state file, variables.tf, and then we have the .terraform directory. Okay. And then okay, so let me show you this as well. So Terraform works on two different Terraform will works on mutable and immutable infrastructure. Means for example, let me make some change. Here I'm trying to create my cat name is dog. Okay, if I'm trying to execute Terraform apply, so save అవ్వలేదు. Okay, let me save this and let me try to execute Terraform apply. Okay, so if I'll enter yes, what it is doing, if you see this output, first it is trying to destroy the local file my pet. Okay, from this resource it is trying to delete the existing file which is configured as my cat name is hen. Okay, once this is destroyed, then it is trying to create a new file. Okay, so whenever I'm trying to make some changes, what it is Terraform is doing, Terraform is trying to delete the existing file and create the new file. Why it is doing in such an order? Why it is trying to destroy this? Instead of destroying, it can also modify that, right? Instead of destroying, Terraform can also modify that. But why Terraform is destroying and again creating?
Was not recommended to modify the files, right?
No, basically this is something related to the architecture, Terraform behavior. Okay,
Okay.
okay, so we have two type of infrastructures. Okay, we have one infrastructure called mutable and second one is called as immutable. Okay, so Terraform basically will be using immutable infrastructure strategy. Okay, immutable means deleting the older infrastructure and creating a newer one with the new update. Okay, mutable means using the existing infrastructure and updating the system with the newer version. For example, okay, for example, we have Amazon Linux. Okay, AM Linux 2 servers. Okay, for example, we have Amazon Linux, not 2, let me use 3. So we have 3 servers, and in these 3 servers we have installed Nginx. Okay, in 3 servers we have installed Nginx. Okay, the current version of Nginx is, for example, 1.7. I assume that the current version is 1.7 of Nginx is been installed in our Amazon Linux. Okay, so now if you want to upgrade this from 1.7 to 2.0 or 1.9 or 1.8, okay, so I want to upgrade this to 1.8. Okay, so then what I will be doing on the same machines, okay, I will download the new packages. Okay, I mean the new existing RPM packages, whatever is required for the latest version. Okay, and I will update this from 1.7 to 1.8. 1.8. 1.8. So in pre-existing infrastructure means already unna infrastructure ke what I am trying to do, I am trying to just update my packages. Nginx packages are being updated on the same infrastructure. Okay, and for example, now again we have got the requirement to modify this to 1.9. Okay, I am trying to update this to 1.9, again to this 1.9. Here also I'm trying to update to 1.9, but for some reasons this update has not been possibly done. ఏదో ఒక ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చింది, we have faced some issues and we were unable to update this to 1.9. Okay, so we are executing on 1.8 only. For some reasons the update has not been executed. Okay, so what will happen, our application is deployed on these 3 servers and there is a lot of configuration drift. Configuration drift means in 2 servers we are able to see Nginx 1.9 and in one server we are able to see Nginx 1.8. So our application behavior is not predictable. There might be a bad behavior as well because of the missing packages or missing versionings in 3 different servers. Okay, this kind of use case is called as mutable, means on existing infrastructure only we will be making updates. But Terraform will work on immutable infrastructure, means for example we have 3 servers. Okay, same 1.7, 1.7 and 1.7. So if suppose you want to update this to 1.8, so what Terraform will do, it will launch one new server. Okay, here it will be Nginx, here it will be 1.8, and before launching this will be deleted. Okay, this will be deleted. So now we have 3 servers, 1.7, 1.7, 1.8. So once this is launched, again this will delete this. This will launch a new server with Nginx with 1.8. Again after that this will delete this and this will launch a new server of version 1.8 of Nginx. Okay, so this behavior is called as immutable behavior. So Terraform will also use the same strategy. That's the reason we are able to see that whenever we are trying to make any changes, this will destroy the existing one and create a new one with the latest version or latest changes. Okay, yes or no?
Okay, bro. Okay, bro.
Okay, and then ingobati. Okay, for example, I don't want this to destroy first. I want Terraform to create first and then destroy it later. ఎందుకు అంటే for any reason, for any use case. For example, I have my container or I have my EC2 for SQL database. Okay, we have one database and I want to make some changes. In that case, I don't want to destroy that first. I want to create a new one and then destroy in reverse order. Why Terraform is destroying first and creating later? I want this in a reverse order. I want to create first and then destroy later. In this case, what can be done? Is it possible for us to do? So in that case, okay, so let me first apply. Okay, this has created. Let me save this and let me create one file, Terraform apply. Yes, okay, we can see one file has been created. Now when I am trying to execute or make any changes, I want Terraform to create a new file first and then it should delete. In that case, we have something called lifecycle rules in Terraform. Okay, so in lifecycle rules, create before destroy. We have one lifecycle rule called create before destroy. Or in some cases, you want Terraform to keep two files. You don't want to destroy any file. Asal destroy another I want Terraform to keep two files. In this case, we also have same lifecycle rules we can configure. Okay, so we have different lifecycle rules. That is prevent destroy, this one. Okay, we have one which is create before destroy. We have one lifecycle rule that is prevent destroy. Okay, and then we have one lifecycle rule that is called as ignore changes. So let me write this. Destroy ignore underscore changes. Okay, so we have three lifecycle rules. For example, how to add them in our existing infrastructure. So for example, for this content, okay, lifecycle, within that block, create before destroy equal to true. Okay, now if I'm trying to make some changes, instead of dog, I'm trying to write as zebra. Okay, if I clear the screen and if I execute Terraform apply apply, right? Yes, Terraform apply. Yes, see what it is trying to do. It is first trying to create, and then it is trying to destroy. Okay, because of this life cycle rule what we have configured. Okay, for example, if you want to prevent this without deleting, I mean there might be some cases where we don't want someone to delete our or destroy our existing infrastructure. Even if he is trying to delete, then this should not work. In this case, what I can do is I can use the lifecycle called let me remove this. Prevent destroy equal to true means this should not be deleted. For example, I am trying to make these changes active. Terraform apply. Okay. So Terraform apply appeal has been created. So let me make this change and try to execute. Banana. Okay. Terraform apply. See, it is throwing error. Instance cannot be destroyed. So if I want to prevent this without any kind of deletion, then I can add this lifecycle rule so that if anyone is trying to execute, then this will not happen. Okay. So, but this will only applicable if anyone is executing Terraform apply. Apply చేస్తున్నప్పుడే this will get executed. If suppose I am trying to use Terraform destroy. So basically, if I'm trying to use Terraform destroy, this will get deleted. This will not be prevented. Okay, when trying to apply, then this will be prevented. Similar case, we have one more, that is ignore changes. Okay, for example, ignore changes. Okay, what I'm trying to do. For example, I'm adding a lifecycle rule called ignore changes and the content as all. Ante anni changes ki this should be ignored. For example, ankundam. Okay, so if I'll see the state file. Okay, for any reason, for some xyz reason, I have modified my state file, or I have used some kind of changes in my infrastructure. Whatever infrastructure we have created, I have added it manually. Manually, I have made the changes for some reasons. And in that case, if the user is trying to execute the same file, for example, Ankundam, for example, here we had Apple, right? Okay, and state file is also same, right? So if suppose I have made this to banana, some reason I have modified my state file to banana. Okay, and if I'm trying to execute this Terraform apply, see what will happen. See, syntax error, no argument my pet. Okay, there is some syntax error. Let me check. All ignore life cycle rule in Terraform. Or else all the object has no argument, nested block or expected attribute name all. Okay, let me ignore the content, right? So let me use content. Okay, so whatever changes are being made in content should be ignored. And manually, I have changed the state file content to banana. Okay, and if I'm trying to execute this, generally, normally, what if this block is not available, then what Terraform should do? Terraform should make the changes from apple to banana in the state file. Okay, but here, if I'll execute this change will be ignored. Okay, if you'll see this, no changes. If I'll open my sorry, terraform.state file, see my cat name is banana only. because I have ignored the changes, whatever has been changed in content. Not every time you want Terraform to make changes, because there might be some chances that we might also say make some changes manually or by using some any external tool sets. In this case, if we want to ignore that content, we can use lifecycle rules to prevent, to ignore, as well as to destroy before creating. Okay, now hope this is clear. Guys, yes or no?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so let me remove this. We don't require this. Okay, so let me remove this. Okay, and let me use Terraform apply so that the latest changes should be applicable. Okay, done. Now if you see this, one second guys. Okay, for example, if you see this configuration file, everything has been hard coded. Ante file name em undali, content name em undali, prefix em undali, separator em undali, length em undali, everything has been hard coded, and this is not the best approach. Okay, this is not the best approach. We should always make sure that our configuration files are more generic. Ante ఎంత తక్కువ హార్డ్ కోడింగ్ ఉంటే అంత మంచిది, because if suppose you want to make some changes, then you can't come to this file and make the changes over here. Okay, this should be more reusable. Ante we should have our configuration file in terms of variables. Okay, what will happen if anyone wants to make any changes, then he will change only in the variable file rather in our file, I mean the main source file. Okay, for example, here in this file I want to configure this as part of variables. Okay, let me create one file called variables.tf. Okay, variables.tf. I've saved this file. Okay, what variable I want to create? I will be creating the variable name with the same attribute name. Okay, let me use this. Okay, variable, the name of the variable will be file name itself. Okay, whatever attributes I am trying to pass, I will be configuring it the same name so that it will be very easy for me to understand. Okay, so variable and then the file name and then the content. Here we can see three. One is type, okay, and then description, and then default. In any variable we can find these three sections. Okay, default, type, and description. Let me copy this here. Okay, so this is my variable block and this is my variable name similar to the attribute name, and these are the three options. Description, why we want to use description? This is optional. This is optional, whether if you want to use you can use, or else you can ignore. Okay, used for user understanding. అంటే ఈ వేరియబుల్ ఎందుకు యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాం అనే ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ we can write in the description. This is just to understand. Okay, and this is optional. If you want you can use, or if you don't want you can use. If you don't want you cannot use. Okay, so now type means, Okay, so let me remove this first. Description is not required, so let me delete this. Okay, type means in variables we have different type of variables. We have numeric, numbers, string, tuple, and we have list. So we have 5 to 6 different type of variables available in Terraform. So as of now, let me, this type is also optional. If you want, you can use, or else you can ignore. So I am using the type called string. Okay, because this is something string related. Okay, string. File name. File name is it's.txt. Okay, so this is my file name. Okay, here if you see, let me use this. So we have, this is our main.yaml and this is my variable. So what I have did, I have written one variable for pets.txt file name. Okay, so here what I need to do is I need to configure as variable dot file name. Okay, variable I need to call, if suppose I want to call this variable, what I need to do, I need to configure as var dot and then the name of the variable. Similar to this, I want to configure a variable for content as well. So what I need to do, I will write one more block. Variable content default value will be default content, that will be the default value what we want to pass. Okay. I love cats. For example, I'm trying to configure this as I love cats. Okay. In this case, I'm trying to ignore the type. I don't want to write the type because type is optional. Okay. Here, let me make the changes. var dot default. Okay. So we have now two variables declared in the variables dot tf file, where we have configured the variables dot tf in the same working directory. Okay. So if I'm trying to execute, yeah.
Var dot content असणार sir.
Oh, sorry, var dot content, right? Var dot content. Okay. So once we are declared this, now let me try to execute Terraform apply. We'll see what will happen. Okay. Yes. Okay. If you see this, this has been wrong. Basically, we have created one file, but this file name has been declared as var.filename, and the content is also var.content. Basically, Terraform hasn't picked these variables. There is some conventioning naming conventions wrong. Okay, let me remove these colons. Colons are not required. Okay, now let me try to execute again. Terraform apply. var.content file name. Syntax
Save
errors.
Not saved, I think.
variables.
సేవ్ చేస్తాను నేను.
Variables.
Variables save అయిపోయినాయి. Can be declared within a variable. An input variable with the name content has not been declared. You can declare అయిపోయింది కదా content. This can be declared within a variable content block. Okay, this has been already. Okay, let me save this. Let me try to execute apply. Okay, this is working now. అది సేవ్ అవ్వలేదు. Okay, so if I do yes, here we can see two files called, I mean same, the name is has been declared as pets.txt. If I open this content, we can say as I love cats. Okay, where I have been making the changes, I have been making the changes in the variables.tf file. Similar to this, if you want to make changes or configure different variables for this resource random provider as well, then we can add these variables. Okay, with the help of variables, now our template has been soft coded, means This is more generic. If anyone wants to make any changes, then he can directly come to this variable file. Instead of making the changes over here, he will change in the variables file, and then he will execute Terraform apply. Yes. Okay, if I'll open fetch.txt, here we can see a dialog box. Okay, as of now, this is very small use case. That's the reason we might see that instead of creating variables, we can directly configure here. But when we have a template with 100 lines, then it will be very difficult for us to make the changes. That's the reason we'll be using variables, and this is one of the best practices. We need to always follow this practice only. Okay, this is one use case. In variables, again, we have different type of variables. So let us check about the types of variables. Where we have variable blocks, multiple providers. Okay, so we have these many type of variables available. Okay, one is string. Okay, and see, let me make one more change. Okay, let me configure to this as well. Okay, and then variable will be my prefix, and then default value will be Mr. Type will be, this is also string. Okay, this is also string type. Okay, this is also string. Let me configure one more variable for separator or length. Let me configure for length. Okay, variable length, default value will be 1. Okay, and type of the variable will be, what will be the type? Number. Okay, type will be numeric. Okay, so here we are using two type of variables. One is string and one is numeric. If we want to use boolean, then the value will be true or false. If you are using, if you are not sure which variable needs to be used or what type of variable needs to be used, then we can use the type as any తీసుకుంటే it will allow all the maximum types. ఏదైనా type ఉందని, then this will help us to map that. Okay, and then we have list, we have map, we have object, and we have tuple. Object and tuples basically ఏంటంటే complex data structure. Means in this particular use case, we might see string, number, boolean అన్ని ఉండొచ్చు. Different data types ఉండొచ్చు, variable types ఉండొచ్చు. In this case, we can use object or tuples. Okay, so now if I execute this, I need to make the changes. Okay, here what I will do, dot prefix, dot separator లేదు కదా, we don't have any variable for separator, so var dot length. Okay, so if I'll execute this, for example, if I'm trying to change the variable as true, if I try to execute apply, yes, here we can see two different names has been created. One is peaceful and one is goat, because of the length as 2. If I want to make the change as 1, then I can make it as 1. If I execute again, the changes will be applied. Okay, only one name, that is Gazelle. Okay, so again in variables we have different type of variables. Whatever we have seen, we have been passing in variables.tf file. For example, assume that let me delete this variable.tf. Let me first copy. Let me first copy and delete this file. Okay. What I have deleted this file, but in configuration, we can see the variables has been passed. If I'll try to execute, what will happen? What's happening over here? Because there are no variables passed, then this will not execute. Okay. In this case, what I can do is I can pass the variables at runtime. For example, Terraform hyphen apply hyphen var file name equal to test.txt. Okay. Let me make these changes. Chala lengthy అయిపోద్ది. So let me hardcode this for one. I will use only for content and file. Okay. Prefix will be Mr. only. So test.txt and then again hyphen var variable content equal to head cats. Okay, and let me hit enter. Too many command lines arguments expected at most one positional argument hyphen var content. And let me remove this spacings. Then let me check. Variable block. The variable name content was assigned on the command line, but the root module does not declare a block. Contents CONTNT. Okay, let me save this. Save చేయలే అందుకోసమే అది ప్రాబ్లం అవుతుంది. Okay, I have saved this now. Now let me execute. Variable block content not declared. Okay, here we can see one file called variable.content has been configured. We use this value add a variable block to the configuration.
ఫస్ట్ ఇచ్చినట్టు స్పేసెస్ ఇచ్చి ట్రై చేయాలి, ఇప్పుడు సేవ్ కాలేదు.
Space అంటావా? Basically file name is my variable which has been declared. Okay, content is my variable which has been declared. Too many command argument ఉంటుంది. Okay, let me check. main.tf array hyphen var and then in double quotes we need to have this. Okay, and then let me remove this as well. Okay, now let me now let me try to execute this. Let me copy this command. Hyphen var equal to content equal to head cats. Terraform apply hyphen var. Okay, file name will be pets.txt double quotes. It is not taking var content equal to I hate Yes, this should work at least. Define where content, this is not object. Command is not proper. Correct. Yeah. ఎందుకు search చేస్తున్నా? Terraform spelling తప్పుంది కదా. Do you mean, okay, it is asking to remove the spaces. Okay, let me do that. Define var equal to, okay. Also not proper. Let me check this. Terraform command line arguments syntax ఏముంది చెక్ చేయాలి. Command line variables, input variables, yeah.
ఏమన్నా రాంగ్ ఇన్పుట్ చేసినా అట్లా చేసినప్పుడు ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ అదే ఐడెంటిఫై చేస్తుంది కదన్నా.
ఏంది ఇక్కడ ఏదైతే అవుట్పుట్ వస్తుందో దిస్ ఇస్ ఆల్సో నాట్ రిలవెంట్. ఎగ్జాక్ట్ ఇస్తుందని గ్యారంటీ లేదు ఇప్పుడు. బట్ విత్ ద హెల్ప్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ వీ కెన్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ఓకే ఏమో ఇష్యూ వస్తుందని, అంతే తప్ప ఎగ్జాక్ట్ అదే ఇష్యూ ఉంటుందని చెప్పలేము. I hope now. Hyphen var terraform the variable name. Okay. ఇలానే అప్లై చేయాలి అది. hyphen var equal to file name. Okay. Wait, let me do one thing. Okay, let me clear up this. Okay, so we have two variables. Okay, so what I will do is let me create one more file called variables.tf. Same file creates this. Okay, variables.tf. Okay, now I am trying to declare one variable. Okay, variable name will be file name. Sorry, file name. Okay, just blocks create this one. I am not declaring anything. Okay, and then content. Okay, so what I have did, I have created one variables.tf file, but I am not declaring any values. Just to create చేసేసిన. Okay, but I am not declaring anything. Okay, so now let us see what Terraform will do. Okay, empty items, empty blocks. Okay, if I am executing Terraform apply, okay, Terraform is asking us to enter the value. This is command line arguments. Okay, so var.content, what should be the var.content? Content can be I hate, for example, cats. And then file name can be pets.txt. So if any user has declared any variables, created the variables.tf, and he hasn't declared any variables, he has created the empty file, then Terraform by default it will consider as command line argument. So it will ask the user to add the inputs at the runtime. If I'll open pets.txt, here we can see I hate cats. So in similar case, if I'm using, if I want to pass, I mean, I don't want Terraform to ask the user as the input. I want to pass as a command line arguments directly. In this case, Terraform -apply -var, and then file name. I want to change this to, instead of pets, I want to change this to while.txt, and then one more variable we need to pass, that is var, that is content equal to I love tiger, for example. Okay, if I'll hit enter, what happened? Okay, why this command is not fetching up? It should pick, basically we need to use the flag called -var so that it will automatically take these variables as the input instead of asking the user. Okay, but I'm not sure. Did you mean -var? नहीं, वो भी वर्क ना हो रहा, उससे पहले यूज कराना. Let me check as per the instruction. Invalid. Okay. There was the issue with the spacings. Okay. So whenever we are trying to push our variables from the runtime, right? So what we need to, we should not provide any spaces. Spaces provide చేస్తున్నందుకు it is getting failed. Okay. Now if I'll enter the value as yes, while.txt has been created. If I'll open, I love tiger. Okay, but we need to create the variables file. We are not passing that, that's a different story, but we need to create the variables.tf file. Okay, guys, understood?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what else? And then we have other type of variables as well. We'll discuss about the variables in tomorrow's session. Okay, so as of now, this is too much, I guess. So we have discussed three variables. One is variables.tf, one is by the command line, you asking the user for the input, and another is the command line arguments. Let me copy this. Okay, and in tomorrow we'll be having session first, and then we'll be working on the mock interviews. Okay, in tomorrow session we'll cover the remaining variables as well as the precedence rule of the order of the variables, and then we'll work on the mappings as well, references, mappings, and state file. Okay, so till then, work on this video, try to get all the details. A Terraform log and all this part we'll see in the next classes. As of now, focus on this. If you want to do some R&D, then try to google it, use ChatGPT, try to get some information. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, then let me know, or else we will be dropping off.
Sabir,
Yeah.
at the time, before only at the time of space, we are getting issues, right? Is there any chance to set up automatically to clear all that spacious issue?
No, 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 no.
We
At
have to
runtime,
create manually.
we are getting this issue at runtime when I'm trying
Okay.
to execute my Terraform apply. So here we don't have any kind of format configurations.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Here, if you'll see anything, I mean, if you want to make it more in terms of formatting in a organizational way, that we can use Terraform FMT command. But at
Oh.
runtime, we don't have any such commands or modules which will help us to get the information. From here, output itself, we can get some detail. I mean, some kind of instruction, what's happening or where we are seeing the issues. But even that will not be accurate. We need to analyze again. We need to test. We need to again execute the commands again and again. Okay. Guys, anything else? I'll be sharing this document for now. Please go through this document as well. Okay.
అన్నా
Yeah.
అక్కడ మనం వేరియబుల్స్ ఫైల్ ఒకటి క్రియేట్ చేసాం కదా. ఫస్ట్ మనం చేసినప్పుడు స్పెసిఫిక్స్ ఇస్తే రాలేదు, తర్వాత వేరియబుల్స్ ఫైల్ యాడ్ చేసాం కదా.
Basically, ఏమైందంటే అప్పుడు what I was trying to do, I have deleted this variables.tf, okay, and I was trying to execute or pass my variables. So before passing, we need to declare this somewhere. నేను అసలు డిక్లేర్ చేయలే, అందుకోసమే it was not getting executed. So here I have declared my variable. I haven't passed any input attributes. There are no variable value, default value. That's the reason it is asking me at the runtime. So we have two. One is command line and one is command line flags.
ఇప్పుడు మనం ఫైల్ నేమ్ కి క్రియేట్ చేసాం కదా, ప్రిఫిక్స్ సెపరేటర్ లెంత్.
అవును, దానికి కూడా ఇవ్వచ్చు. దానికి కూడా in case if you want to use, for example, prefix, okay, var dot prefix, okay, and then you need to create one empty block. If you don't want to pass this in variables.tf, then you need to create one empty block. Okay, save and try to execute Terraform apply. I don't want to use flags. I will use Terraform apply. So this will be asked the user only. What is the content? Okay. For example, hello, file name .txt, and then prefix ఇక్కడ అడుగుతుంది. That's it.
అలా ఎన్ని వేరియబుల్స్ కావాలంటే అన్ని పాస్ చేసుకోవచ్చు.
అన్ని ఎన్ని కావాలంటే అన్ని పాస్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఇలా పాస్ చేస్తే ఏమవుతుంది అంటే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ ఎనీ పాస్వర్డ్, ఓకే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ ఎనీ పాస్వర్డ్, సో యూ కాన్ స్టోర్ దట్ పాస్వర్డ్ ఇన్ ద variables.tf. స్టోర్ చేయగలుగుతామా? This will be visible to everyone at that time. Either we can use or execute them at the runtime by using runtime variables. Okay. Apart from that, we also have one more variable called what we call export variables. Okay. Where are we? Export variables. So what we'll do, we'll use the export command. This export command will not work on Windows machines. For that, we need to have Linux servers. Okay. So అది యూస్ చేస్తే ఏమవుతుందంటే, it will store the value for the temporary storage. Temporaryగా it will store, say this one, export variables. Okay. So what I'm trying to do, I'm exporting this file name, okay, in my temporary location for some temporary period of time. So when I use Terraform apply, it will automatically fetch from the backend. This will not be visible to anyone. If we have passwords and all, this is the best way what we need to follow. Okay. And again, okay, environmental variables, we call them as environmental variables. Okay. And then if suppose any user is trying to use variables.tf, for example, you can do, I'm trying to declare my value. Okay. Value em istuna default file name emudi, for example, docs.txt. Okay. I have declared my file name. Okay. And I'm trying to use the flag as well. This one. ఇక్కడ కూడా పాస్ చేస్తున్నా, ఇక్కడ కూడా పాస్ చేస్తున్నా. Then what will happen? I'm passing my variables at two places. One is variables.tf and one is at the command line argument flags. Okay, I'm using the flag called -var and I'm using this. Okay, so which needs to be replicated. I mean, Terraform ఏది accept చేయాలి? Which one should Terraform accept? In this case, we have precedence order, means based upon the order value, this will accept. So that part we'll see in tomorrow's session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was there any other questions? Okay, if not, then we'll wind up. Okay, bye. Practice again 4:30. Everyone will connect.